Yeah, it's crazy. One of the things that happened this week um, is our MVP, Vice President Harris, was diagnosed with COVID. Hopefully, it's a mild COVID. And she took I think the Pfizer medication. And Politico wanted to know why. First of all, they called her Kamala instead of Vice President Harris, which we all do. We call her Kamala, but there's a difference between how you and I talk, maybe over on Twitter versus when we read a headline. But I say it all to say, um, Politico got a lot of heat for it, and there's two or three issues, and one of the things, what way I broke it down is, people are taking issue with one, the story, and two, that in the headline they refer to, instead of Vice President Harris, in the headline I'm talking, instead of referring to her as Vice President Harris, they refer to her as Kamala. Now I see two things happening here, and they wanted to imply, is she sicker than anything, or why is she getting this treatment that we all can't get, or what have you. The fascinating thing to me is that they called her Kamala. Because when you call her Kamala in that particular headline, in that particular tweet, you rob her of her title. And when you rob her of her title, then you also rob her of any kind of justification for there to be extraordinary precautions taken to make sure she doesn't get sick or sicker, right? And that's strictly because she is first in the line of succession. She's the vice president of the United States. And whatever medical treatment that you would give to Vice President Harris, you're doing it because she is very well might have to step in at any time to be the president of the United States. But when you call her Kamala, you make her into just an average Joe, an average person. And by doing that, then you got someone saying, well, when I got sick, I didn't get this medication. I don't want to get classes and tell people you ain't all that important, but when you do not call her Vice President Harris in that headline, you rob her and you rob yourselves of all of the justifications as to why she was deserving and needed to take the medication. What was your take last week when you heard that story?
So the only thing I'll say about that is I agree with what you're saying in the sense that there's just precautions taken with certain people that you just have to live with. I will say it reminded me of when Biden was getting flack for flying when the CDC was recommending not to fly. Jen Psaki was like, "Well, he's the president; he has Air Force One, so it's not like he's waiting at the gate, right?" So part of it came off like, "Well, he's elitist," but part of it is like, "This is the president; he has Air Force One, and that's something we just have to live with." But I'm gonna ignore everything. So I your 2 points is what the points that everybody was making is the headline, and then also why does she have access to this? Well, I'm gonna push back on that second part, and here's what I'll say: nobody's talking about this for a country that is had vaccine hesitancy, for a country that has hesitancy to COVID medications. Even people who are fully vaccinated were hesitant, right? Even I, under the Trump administration, was like, I don't know, right? There's a big part of this country that's super hesitant towards these. Here's Pfizer, who is part of these conspiracy theories from the right about Bill Gates and Pfizer pandemic and all this other stuff. Here's Pfizer with a what they call a miracle drug, which is 90 to 95% effective from a serious case from preventing a serious case of COVID and death from COVID. Right? If you get COVID, this pill, by the way, is called Paxlovid. It's designed that if you get COVID and get diagnosed and get tested, the nurse or the person at the counter could hand you Paxlovid, and then 90 to 95% prevents you from a hospital or severe disease or death. Here's a pill that they're calling a miracle drug, historic drug that they've been able to make over the past 2 years that people might be hesitant to take. And when you get the vice president of the United States to say, yeah, sign me up, sure, this is safe, this is effective, that's worth much more than her just getting it and have access to it, right? You need public, we talked about it with vaccines and LeBron and the NBA and people who should step up and say, this is safe, this is effective, give it to me. We see with Kyrie Irving pushing back on vaccines. There's a lot of pushback on this. And for the vice president of the United States, the second most powerful person in the world, to say, give it to me, sign me up, I'm cool, let's do it. That should be applauded. It shouldn't be criticized, right? The second part of this, I just listened to a podcast with the CEO of Pfizer, and all the medical professionals are saying we didn't have a lot of Paxlovid, but now we do. My sister's a farm tech at CVS. I texted her, "Do you guys have this?" She said it's coming this week. Paxlovid within the next 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 months, will be everywhere and it'll be much more available. So for them to say, well, nobody has access to this is just straight up bad reporting and misinformation. A lot of people have access to this, and you should tell people. You should be in your articles that look, the vice president's getting this miracle drug. Everyone's going to have access to it soon. That should be the story. So I don't see that part of the narrative that this is safe and effective, and her taking it is good for the country because it tells people that this is safe and effective.